Please help my child!
Billionaire CEO throws this black woman out of the hospital for not being able to afford her son's surgery. The security guards grabbed her arm so hard she would find bruises there later. Purple marks shaped like fingerprints. They held her in front of 40 strangers in the hospital lobby. "I said remove her," Dr. Harrison Cross repeated. He fixed his silk tie without looking at her. "We don't provide charity care, and we don't negotiate with people who waste our time." Nadine Palmer stopped fighting, not because she gave up, but because she learned long ago that fighting only gave men like this what they wanted, a reason to call her aggressive, a reason to justify their cruelty. "My son is 11 years old," she said. Her voice was steady even as tears ran down her face. "He needs heart surgery. I have $62,000. I can get more. I just need time." "Time," Dr. Cross laughed. It was a short, cold sound that echoed off the marble floors. His family had built this hospital 3 generations ago. "Mrs. Palmer, the surgery costs $340,000. You're not even close, and your son's case isn't special enough for our charity program. We have standards. He's a child. He's one of thousands." Dr. Cross finally looked at her. What she saw in his eyes made her stomach turn. Not hatred. That would mean he saw her as human. Just nothing. Just inconvenience. "Security, if she's not gone in 2 minutes, call the police." Many women will recognize this moment right away, the moment when your child's life depends on someone who sees you as nothing. They dragged her toward the doors, past the front desk where a young nurse looked away, past the waiting families who pretended not to see, past the huge painting of Harrison Cross III. His painted eyes watched her shame with the same cold look as his son. And then she saw him. He stood near the elevators, a tall man in a dark coat. His face was partly turned away, but she knew that profile. Knew it like she knew her own heartbeat, like she knew the exact moment each morning when Marcus's fever would rise. Viktor Antonov. 12 years of silence, 12 years of believing he was dead. Or worse, that he had simply chosen to disappear. 12 years of raising their son alone, telling Marcus that his father was a good man who loved him, even though she had no proof, only faith, only the memory of 3 months that changed everything. Viktor turned. Their eyes met. He looked older, harder. The gentle architecture student she had known in London was gone. Someone sharper had taken his place, someone more dangerous. But his eyes, those pale gray eyes that Marcus had inherited, they went wide when he recognized her. "Nadine?" The security guards let go of her so fast she almost fell. She didn't understand why until she saw their faces. They were afraid. "Mr. Antonov," one of them said. His voice shook. "We didn't know you were here today." Viktor ignored them completely. He walked toward her. His eyes stayed fixed on her face like the rest of the world had disappeared. "You're alive," he said. His voice cracked on the word. "They told me you were dead. They showed me pictures. A grave." "Who told you that?" But she knew. Even as she asked, she knew. "My father." Viktor stopped in front of her. Close enough that she could see the scar on his jaw that wasn't there before, the gray threads in his dark hair. "He said there was an accident, a fire, that you and the baby—" He stopped. "There was a baby?" Nadine's legs gave out. Viktor caught her before she hit the floor. His arms were strong and steady. For one moment she was 23 again, standing in his tiny London apartment, laughing while he tried to make her breakfast and burned everything except the toast. "There's a boy," she whispered. "His name is Marcus. He has your eyes." She told him everything in the private waiting room on the top floor, a room that Dr. Harrison Cross suddenly made available the moment Viktor Antonov's name was spoken. She told him about finding out she was pregnant 2 weeks after he vanished, about the men who came to her apartment at night. They told her Viktor had been killed in Moscow, that his family blamed her, that if she ever tried to contact them, she would disappear too. She told him about running, changing her name, working 3 jobs while pregnant, then 4 jobs after Marcus was born, building a life from nothing in Chicago, far from London, far from anyone who might know her. She told him about Marcus's first word, car, his first steps at 10 months old, too early, his first day of school. He cried. She cried harder. She told him about the diagnosis 3 years ago, a heart problem that had been hiding, silent and patient, waiting to destroy everything she had built. "I've spent every penny I have," she said, "sold my house, my car, everything except what I need to care for him. And it's still not enough. Other hospitals said they could do it for less. But Marcus's condition is complicated. This hospital has the best children's heart surgeon in the country. She only works here." Viktor was quiet for a long time. He stood by the window. He looked out at the city. His reflection floated in the glass like a ghost. "My father told me you were dead," he said again, like saying it twice could make it make sense. "He showed me pictures of a burned building, papers from the coroner. I mourned you for 2 years, before I could live again. And then I became..." He stopped. "Became what?" "Someone who could never be hurt like that again." He turned to face her. "My father died 6 years ago. Heart attack. I inherited his business. All of it." "What business?" Viktor's face didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. "The kind of business that makes men like Dr. Cross very nervous when I walk into their hospital." Nadine took this in. She had read stories over the years, rumors about the Antonov family, whispers about the Russian businessman who built an empire on fear and favors. She had always told herself Viktor was different, that the gentleman she loved couldn't be part of that world. But the gentleman she loved had thought she was dead for 12 years. He mourned her while she was changing diapers, working night shifts, reading Marcus bedtime stories. "I don't want your money," she said. "I know. I want you to understand that I'm not here because of who you are now. I didn't even know you were alive until 20 minutes ago." "I know that too." Viktor crossed the room. He knelt in front of her chair. He took her hands in his. His palms were rougher than she remembered, scarred in places. "But I need you to understand something too. Whatever you think of me, whatever I've become, Marcus is my son, and no one is going to stop him from getting this surgery. Not Dr. Cross, not his board, not God himself." Marcus was asleep when they entered his room. His small body looked tiny in the hospital bed. Monitors beeped their steady rhythm. Evening light fell across his face. It showed the sharp cheekbones and stubborn jaw that were entirely his father's. Viktor stopped in the doorway like he had been hit. "He has my mother's nose," he said softly. "She died when I was 7. I barely remember her face anymore. But I remember her nose. She used to joke that it was too long, that she looked like a witch from the side." His voice broke. "She would have loved him." Nadine watched Viktor watching Marcus. She saw 12 years of grief and anger and confusion rearranging into something new, something that scared her. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now Dr. Cross will find out that his hospital's biggest secret donor is no longer a secret, and that if my son doesn't get the best care this place can give, with respect and kindness, I will take his family's legacy apart piece by piece." Viktor's voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Then we're going to find out who helped my father fake your death, because someone made those pictures. Someone built that lie. Viktor, you've been alone for 12 years, Nadine. You've carried everything alone. Let me carry something now." Marcus stirred. His eyes opened, confused and bright with fever. They found his mother's face first. They always did. Then they moved to the stranger beside her. "Mom?" "Who's that?" Nadine opened her mouth. No words came. How do you explain 12 years in one sentence? How do you introduce a father to a son who has only known his absence? Viktor saved her. "I'm someone who knew your mother a long time ago," he said. He crouched beside the bed so he was at Marcus's eye level. "My name is Viktor, and I'm going to make sure you get better." Marcus studied him the way only children can. Serious. Missing nothing. "Are you rich?" "Marcus!" Nadine felt her face get hot, but Viktor laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of him. The sound made his face look almost gentle again. "Yes," he said, "very rich. Is that a problem?" "No." Marcus thought about this. "My mom says rich people aren't automatically bad. They just have more chances to be bad if they want to. She says character is what you do when nobody's watching. Your mother is very wise. She also says I ask too many questions and need to rest." Marcus's eyes were already closing. The small burst of energy was fading. "Are you going to be here when I wake up?" Viktor looked at Nadine, a question in his eyes. She nodded. "Yes," he told his son. "I'm going to be here." The surgery was scheduled for 9 days later, an eternity when you're watching your child grow weaker. But a miracle compared to the months of waiting Dr. Cross had first demanded. In those 9 days, Nadine learned several things about who Viktor had become. She learned that he kept his promises. The hospital staff, who had barely noticed her before, now treated her with careful respect. Not warmth. She wasn't foolish enough to expect that. But respect. The nurses remembered Marcus's name. The doctors returned her calls. She learned that he was patient. He didn't push for answers she wasn't ready to give. He didn't demand to know why she never tried to find him, why she accepted the story of his death so easily. He just showed up every day, sat with Marcus while she slept, and learned every detail of their son's life through quiet questions and careful listening. She learned that he was capable of terrible things. On the 5th day, a man came to the hospital with a folder full of papers. Nadine recognized him from news photos. Dmitry Kozlov, Viktor's right hand, a man whose name was connected to violence she didn't want to understand. Viktor took the folder into the hallway. She heard raised voices. Something hit a wall. Then silence. When he came back, his knuckles were bleeding. "What was in the folder?" she asked. "Information about who helped my father." He sat down hard in the chair beside Marcus's bed. The boy was sleeping again. Always sleeping now, saving his strength for the fight ahead. "His name was Gregory Chen. He was a private investigator my father hired to find you when I first told him you were pregnant. When Chen found you, my father decided a clean break would be better for everyone. Chen faked the pictures, made the fake papers. My father paid him $300,000 to erase you." "What happened to Chen?" Viktor was quiet for a long moment. "He died 7 years ago. Liver cancer. He left a wife and 2 daughters." He looked at his hands, at the blood drying between his fingers. "I wanted him to be alive. I wanted..." He stopped. "It doesn't matter what I wanted. He's beyond my reach now. Would you have hurt him?" "Yes." Nadine should have been horrified. 6 months ago, she would have been. But 6 months ago, she hadn't spent 3 days believing her son might die in a hospital lobby because a wealthy man found her inconvenient. "What about your father?" she asked. "Did you know what he could do?" "I suspected, but suspecting and knowing are different things." Viktor finally looked at her. "I spent 10 years in his shadow, learning his business, becoming his heir. I told myself I could change things from the inside, make things less brutal, more..." He laughed bitterly. "More legal, as if that word means anything in my world." "Did you? Change things?" "Some things. We don't work with traffickers anymore. We've invested in legal businesses, real estate, technology, medical equipment." He waved at the hospital room around them. "This hospital gets $12 million a year from a foundation I control. I thought I was doing good, balancing the scales. But But my father stole 12 years from both of us. My son grew up without me. You worked yourself nearly to death while I lived in luxury, mourning a ghost. Viktor stood and walked to the window. His back was to her. The scales don't balance, Nadine. They never did. She went to him then, standing close but not touching, watching his reflection in the glass. Marcus doesn't know who you really are yet, she said. What you do, he just knows you're kind to him and you keep showing up. That's all children really understand. Being there, being steady. And what do you understand? I understand that you're not the man I fell in love with in London, but I also understand that he might still be in there somewhere. She finally reached out. She touched his arm. Marcus needs his surgery. Everything else can wait. Viktor turned and pulled her into his arms. He held her the way he had 12 years ago, when the world was simpler, when they were young enough to believe love could fix anything. I'm sorry, he whispered into her hair. I'm sorry I didn't find you. I should have looked harder. I should have known my father was lying. You trusted him. I shouldn't have. No, she agreed. But you were 24 and grieving. We were both so young. Too young for what happened to us. And now? Now we're older. Maybe wiser. She pulled back to look at his face. Let's just get through the surgery first. Then we can figure out what comes next. The surgery took 11 hours. Nadine spent the first 3 pacing the waiting room, the middle 5 sitting completely still, as if any movement might disturb the delicate work happening 2 floors above. The last 3, holding Viktor's hand so tight her fingers went numb. He never complained. Never let go. Dr. Sarah Chen, the surgeon whose skill had brought them to this hospital, came out at 9:47 p.m. She still wore her surgical cap. Exhaustion lined her face. The surgery worked, she said. Nadine's legs gave out for the second time in 2 weeks. Viktor caught her again. There was some unexpected scarring from his earlier surgeries. That made things harder, but we fixed the valve. He's recovering now. You can see him in about an hour. Thank you, Nadine managed. Thank you. Dr. Chen nodded. Then she paused. Mrs. Palmer, I want to apologize for what happened with Dr. Cross. His behavior was wrong. I've filed a formal complaint with the hospital board. That's very kind. It's not kind. It's the minimum. Dr. Chen's jaw tightened. I became a surgeon because I believed medical care should be for everyone who needs it. What happened in that lobby broke everything this job is supposed to stand for. She left, and Nadine finally let herself cry. Deep, shaking sobs that moved through her whole body. Viktor held her through all of it. He whispered words she couldn't understand, Russian comfort and bits of prayer mixed together. When she finally quieted, he said, "There's something I need to tell you about Dr. Cross." What? He resigned this morning. The hospital board accepted it right away. His family's foundation will continue, but he will never work in medicine again. Viktor's voice was flat. He also moved his entire personal investment account, about $42 million, to a charity for children who can't afford heart treatment. Nadine stared at him. How? He was given information about certain financial problems, things that would embarrass him if they became public. Information about hidden accounts and unreported income. He chose to handle it quietly. You blackmailed him. I gave him options. He chose the one that let him keep his freedom and most of his pride. Viktor met her eyes without looking away. Would you rather he faced no consequences, that he kept shaming mothers in hospital lobbies, deciding which children deserved to live based on their parents' money? No, she said slowly, but I wish you hadn't become someone who destroys people for a living. So do I. He let go of her hands and stepped back. But I am that person, Nadine. I can't undo the last 12 years. I can't be the architecture student you fell in love with, the one who dreamed about designing buildings that would make people's lives better. That man died when he thought you did. And who are you now? I don't know. For the first time, he looked unsure, weak. For 6 years, I've been my father's heir. The man people fear. The man who makes problems go away. But when I walked into that lobby and saw you, he shook his head. I don't want to be my father anymore. I don't want Marcus to look at me and see someone who ruins lives. Then don't be. It's not that simple. Maybe not, but it's a start. She reached for him again. She held his face in her hands the way she used to when they were young, when every touch felt sacred. Marcus needs a father who shows up, who reads him stories and helps with homework and teaches him how to be a man. He doesn't need a billionaire or a crime boss. He needs you. Viktor closed his eyes. I don't know if I remember how to be that person. Then learn. We'll learn together. 3 weeks later, Marcus left the hospital. His recovery had been amazing. Children's hearts heal faster than adults, Dr. Chen explained. More flexible, more forgiving. Nadine wondered if adult hearts could do the same. The ones broken not by disease, but by betrayal. By years of silence and separation and the slow death of hope, Viktor had visited every day during Marcus's recovery. He brought books and games and stories about his own childhood. Carefully edited, Nadine guessed, to remove the violence and fear. Marcus listened with wide eyes. He absorbed every detail about his grandmother who loved roses, his grandfather who was cruel, but sometimes funny, the Moscow winters that made Chicago feel warm by comparison. Are you my father? Marcus asked on the day he was released. Viktor was carrying him to the car. Nadine froze. Viktor set Marcus down gently on the back seat. He crouched beside him. What makes you ask that? You have my eyes, and Mom gets this look when she watches us together, like she's happy and sad at the same time. You notice a lot. Mom says that too. She says I notice too much. Marcus picked at the bandage where his IV had been. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. I just wondered. Viktor looked at Nadine. She nodded once. Yes, he said. I'm your father. I didn't know about you until a few weeks ago. Your mother and I lost each other a long time ago. Before you were born. But now that I've found you both, I'm not going anywhere. Marcus thought about this with the serious face of an 11-year-old dealing with huge news. Okay, he finally said. Okay? I always wanted a dad. Tommy Harrigan at school has a dad who takes him to Cubs games. We could do that sometime if you want. Viktor's face did something complicated. A fight between laughing and crying that ended in neither. I would like that very much. Cool, Marcus yawned. I'm tired. Can we go home now? Home, for now, was the apartment Viktor had rented in downtown Chicago. A penthouse that made Nadine's sold house look like a closet. She argued at first, but Viktor pointed out that Marcus needed space to recover, that the apartment had better features for getting around, that she couldn't go back to the cramped rental where she'd been staying. This isn't forever, he said. It's just until you're ready to decide what comes next. What came next, Nadine was learning, was more complicated than she had thought. There were phone calls Viktor took in another room. His voice dropped into fast Russian she couldn't follow. There were men in dark suits who showed up at strange hours. Respectful, but watchful. There were news stories she learned to avoid. Stories about arrests and investigations that circled Viktor's world without quite touching him. And there were moments, quiet moments when he read to Marcus, or made breakfast, or sat with her on the balcony watching the city lights. Moments when she could almost forget what he had become. I've been thinking, Viktor said one evening after Marcus fell asleep, about what you said in the hospital, about learning to be someone different. And I've started giving control of certain operations to Dmitri, the parts of the business that aren't, he paused, that aren't legal. He's been with my family since my father's time. He knows how to manage the change. You're getting out? Slowly, carefully. You don't leave my world quickly without creating problems that hurt everyone around you. He stared at his hands, the same hands that had touched her face that morning. that had helped Marcus with his exercises. It will take years, and there will be choices I won't be proud of. But Marcus is 11. By the time he's old enough to understand what I was, I want to be something different. Nadine leaned against him. She felt the warmth of his body through his shirt. What about the people you've hurt? The things you can't undo? I've started a foundation, anonymous help for families hurt by my organization over the past 10 years. It's not justice. Nothing is justice for what my father built. But it's something. He turned to look at her. You don't have to stay, Nadine. I know that. I'm not asking you to forgive me for what I became while you were gone. I'm just asking for the chance to become something else. She thought about the woman she had been 12 years ago, young, trusting, sure that love was enough to bridge any gap. That woman was gone, replaced by someone harder, more practical, more aware of how the world could break you. But she also thought about Marcus, about the light in his eyes when Viktor walked into the room, about how her son was already healing, not just his heart, something deeper, the wound left by years of questions about his father, about where he came from, about why he was different from other kids. I'm not forgiving you, she said finally. I don't know if I can, but I'm not leaving either, not yet. We have time to figure this out, all three of us. Viktor pulled her close and said nothing. Some things, Nadine had learned, didn't need words. 6 months later, Nadine sat in the back row of Marcus's school auditorium. She watched her son accept an award for his science project about artificial heart valves. Viktor sat beside her. He wore a suit that cost more than her yearly salary used to be. He looked very uncomfortable in the hard plastic chair. Dmitri had wanted to send guards, but Viktor refused. I'm going to my son's award ceremony, he had said, not a business meeting. Marcus's voice carried clearly through the microphone. He explained how blood flows and the challenges of designing valves that can last for years. He didn't mention that one of those valves was beating inside his own chest, but everyone who knew him understood. He's brilliant, Viktor whispered. Where does he get that from? His mother worked 60-hour weeks to pay for tutoring, Nadine whispered back, and his father was going to be an architect who designed buildings that made people's lives better. Viktor was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about that, about what I wanted to be before everything changed, and the foundation I mentioned, the one helping families. I want to make it bigger, build a medical center for children who can't afford treatment. Something real, something that lasts. He looked at her. Something that might make up for some of what I've done. Nadine took his hand. It won't balance the scales. No, but it's a start. On stage, Marcus finished to big applause. He looked out at the audience. He found his parents in the back row. And he smiled. That serious, thoughtful smile that was all his own. The scales would never balance perfectly. Some wounds would never fully heal. Some consequences were permanent, written into their lives like scars that fade but never disappear. But sitting there in that auditorium, watching their son accept his award, Nadine understood something she hadn't before. Justice wasn't always about punishment. Sometimes it was about what came after. The slow, patient work of building something new from what had been destroyed. She squeezed Viktor's hand. He squeezed back, and for the first time in 12 years, she let herself imagine a future that wasn't just about surviving. If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing. There are more stories like this one, about women who endure, who wait, and who finally find their way to something better. What would you have done in Nadine's place? Would you have stayed, or would you have walked away? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.